Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So in this video I'm going to be doing an interview with a returning guest, so Victor Havel. So please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Victor. I have a channel on YouTube called, well, it's just recently renamed Watchers for the Son of Man. I talk a lot about the Psalms and the spirituality of the Psalms. I'm a Benedictine Oblate, which means I'm a layperson trying to observe the rule of Saint Benedict in the world. And I'm associated with the Monastery of Saint Joseph's in Saint Benedict, Louisiana.
So, what led you to create the Watcher's Psalter?
Okay. Um, well, I had been praying the liturgy of the hours for a long time, but then I noticed that being a layperson with all the unpredictabilities of life, it's difficult to maintain a consistent prayer of the canonical hours. And so I thought, I love the Psalms, but I would like to be able to pray a large volume of Psalms. It normally takes about 10 to 20 Psalms just to get my mind reoriented towards God. And so I wanted something that's intense, but customizable to each layperson situation,
Yep.
but without losing the depth and the intensity of a traditional breviary. But again, it's not supposed to be a breviary. It's a personal devotional. It's not liturgical.
Yeah. So, other than being a Benedictine Oblate, what drew you to the hours and the Psalms in particular?
Just that when I started praying the hours, I began to find my true meaning, my true purpose in life. It there's something about punctuating the day with prayer, especially prayer of the Psalms, that makes you realize just how fleeting the world is and how central worship is to our human vocation. That basically you discover the human vocation is divine worship, and everything else is just what we do to express the fruits of that worship.
Yeah,
The divine office is everything. That's it.
definitely. I agree wholeheartedly with that. Which Psalter did you use before you developed the Watcher's Psalter?
I've pretty much always used the post Vatican II liturgy of the hours. Um,
Yep.
it kind of grew on me. That's the one they were using when I was at seminary, and I was scholastic to be a Benedictine. So that's the one
Yeah.
that the seminarians were using, and so it just became my routine. And I've experimented with other psalters like the Agpea, the pre-Vatican II Psalter, but there's just something about the routine and the simplicity of the modern one that just remains
Yeah.
a part of my life.
Uh, what was your motivation for praying the Psalms in the first place?
I think it's because this is kind of embarrassing, but when I was in eighth grade, I was in middle high.
Yep.
I was involved with uh, the heavy metal crowd, and this was the mid to late '80s,
Yep.
and we would sometimes skip school.
Hmm.
We would skip school sometimes, and there was one time my parents found out, and I was so scared. I just picked up the King James. I had a King James version of the Bible,
Yep.
and the first thing I did was started praying the Psalms because I felt so repentant and
Yep.
um, scared of the consequences.
Yeah.
Because my dad is very blue collar. He doesn't really pull any punches when it comes to discipline. Um, and so
Yep.
luckily, and then and when I was a senior in high school, I was very goth. I had the black clothing, the eyeliner,
Like,
and so I was bullied a lot and picked on a
yeah.
lot. So I would pray before going to school. I would be scared of getting beaten up, so I would
Yeah.
pray the Psalms before I went to school.
Yeah.
Secretly, I never told anybody I was doing this. It was like my secret
Mm.
religion in a way. Even though I was raised Catholic at the time, I was trying to come across as this, dark neo-pagan
Like,
uh,
would you say emo in a sense?
goth guy. But it was pre-emo. Emo was kind of like the softer version.
Ah,
Goth was much more occult based and much more punk based,
yeah.
punk and synth pop based. So it had more of an edge to it. It was the romantic offshoot of punk, the
Yeah.
neo-romantic offshoot of punk. So there was a much at the time of its heyday, there was a much stronger emphasis on um, extreme sexuality and occult symbolism. Uh, so at
Yeah.
the time, I wasn't really going to mass anymore. I was confirmed, but I was reading stuff like Aleister Crowley, books on necromancy. I was in pretty bad shape, but the Psalms still had some kind of a place in my life.
Yeah.
For some, maybe it's just the grace of me in touch remotely, at least, with the church.
Yeah. Uh, with your busy schedule, how many psalms do you typically get through per day?
Right. Well, on average, on a busy day, I at least get one or two psalms in, or
Yeah.
I usually that was the point of the Watcher Psalter that on some days if you can't pray, you just pray a verse or one psalm and
Yeah.
repeat it a few times because the repetition gets you deeper into it.
Yeah.
Um, and then when you have more time, rather than being idle, as Saint Benedict, idleness is the enemy of the soul. You you keep watch. You pray the longer set of psalms.
Yeah. What's your favorite Psalter translation?
First place would probably be Douay Rheims because I love how they use the word tabernacle
Yeah.
when they. It's one of the only translations I've seen where they'll use the word tabernacle for tent.
Which psalm is that in?
I forgot where basically wherever it mentions tent,
Mm.
because it changes the entire context. It keeps that liturgical context because when the Psalms
Yeah.
refer to a tent, most of the time they're referring to the meeting tent where the tabernacle was, because that's what the Jews would have thought of,
Yeah,
you know.
that's
And
true.
so it had, yeah. So most of the time when it mentions the temple or the uh, a tent in the desert, it'll say
Yeah.
tabernacle, and it just links it so well. It links the Old Testament and the Catholic Church's understanding of the
Yeah.
tabernacle so well without losing the original sense.
Yeah. Talking about the Douay Rheims, one Psalter that actually uses the Douay Rheims as the base is the Holy Transfiguration Monastery Psalter. So,
Wow.
yep. This is my go-to when I pray the Psalms, usually,
Wow.
because if I can show you, the text is huge. I used
Ooh.
I used to have a pocket version, the pocket version of it. It's a green hardcover, but that got too small for me, so I just had to switch to this.
Right.
But
That's
another,
beautiful.
yeah. So here it is. The other Septuagint one that I have, I was talking to you, texting back and forth with you yesterday. It's this.
Oh, wow. That's
Yep.
gorgeous.
Yep.
That's,
This
yeah.
is, yeah, 5.5 by 3. So it's a nice,
Wow.
it's a nice pocketable version.
Mm. And it's just the Psalms, or does it include the liturgical prayers?
It includes the Psalms, and you've got prayers after as well.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Yep. They do have a larger version as well.
Hmm.
They've actually got a Redux, and then there's a full size. I'm hoping to get the Redux someday. So because I don't want to squint just to read the prayers in here.
True.
Yeah.
What's the name of that? Is it the Jordanville Psalter you said,
Yeah.
or the?
Yeah, Jordanville. So a Psalter for Prayer is officially called.
Okay. Okay. Wow. I'll
Yeah.
have to see. How much was it?
Um, I would say around like 35 Australian dollars. That's like
Yeah.
um check on the Jordanville website
Okay.
for updated prices though. And as well with HTM, check on their website for updated prices for this as well. But talking about the monastic Psalter, this is a new publication that just came out last year.
Yeah.
This is the Psalter for the day hours for the traditional Benedictine office.
Wow.
So I'll show you. It's got a lot of pointing for singing the
Yeah.
psalms. So
Gorgeous.
you would use this in conjunction with the Antiphonale Monasticum. So you have the Antiphonale page numbers in brackets and then the actual page numbers for the Psalter on the in the corner here.
Lovely.
So that's very nice. Talking about another one is the Book of Common Prayer Tradition. So you've got Coverdale,
Mm.
but this is like pretty nice because you've got the music, but
Yeah.
this is not the typical way that you would see plain chant here.
Right.
Now, this is how you would see it usually. This is the St. Dunstan's Plainsong Psalter. It's actually a Western Rite Orthodox publication, but I know All Saints Anglican Church in San Antonio actually uses it.
Mm.
So when it comes to my favorite Psalter translation, I would have to say out of these four, HTM,
Yes.
because I've been using it for my prayer rule for the past like year or so, and I've gotten used
Wow.
to the translation. And another Psalter that I haven't got yet, which I plan on getting, is the Saint Ignatius Orthodox Press Psalter. So I will link that in the description too. So I will also link reviews of all these products in the description as well. So do you have a favorite Psalter, physical build quality wise?
Not really. I've grown quite fond of my pocket Psalter. Uh, it's ideal for the traveling person.
Yeah,
Uh, and I literally I guess just the way Orthodox Jews would uh, keep the Torah wrapped around their wrist or their or in a little box on the forehead. I forget what they call the box.
yeah,
Uh, it keeps the Word of God on your person.
yeah. I would say
Yeah.
any pocket Psalter um will work. Like,
Yeah.
of course, this that I just showed, it's
Yeah, that's deluxe. That's the deluxe version.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's conformed to the Septuagint. So, yep.
Does it still have that new? Does it have that new paper smell?
Nah,
No.
it's So this is actually a correction of the Coverdale um
Mm.
to the Septuagint. So you'll still get like say governor in Psalm 8, I think it is.
Wow.
Yeah. So it basically takes the Coverdale and then corrects it for the Septuagint. But I haven't
Mm.
seen any Orthodox actually use it in liturgical services. It's always just been this mostly, which I've
Right.
heard. So, um, so yeah, the Saint Ignatius Orthodox Press Psalter is also very nice because it's got a lot of materials that you haven't got in other psalters. Like there's a whole page talking about the cell vigil and everything like that.
Hmm.
So, I will definitely leave a link to everything mentioned here, and the other question. So how did you get into composing your own psalm tones and psalm songs?
That was pretty much a response to the Second Vatican Council's encouragement for composers to create new music for the church, but based on Gregorian chant.
Interesting.
So what I do is I take the church modes, the seven, traditional modes or scales that's used in Gregorian chant, but
Yeah.
I write English text melodies or melodies with English text to just as kind of a responsorial that you can sing throughout the day.
Yeah.
Uh, I thought about changing it to where rather than just picking my own verses from the Psalter, I'll just create my own melody for the responsorial for the day from the missal. I mean,
Yeah.
from
Interesting.
the lectionary. Because yeah, so I haven't stopped with that. I just haven't had time to really develop that project much lately.
Yeah.
But that was it. It was the Vatican II's, um, um, I guess you could say, command to maintain Gregorian chant, but in a modern context.
Yeah. Like, I know in Sacrosanctum Nucleum it does say Gregorian chant should have pride of place.
Indeed. Unfortunately, we haven't seen that executed quite well, but hopefully things will change.
Yep. And yeah, I know I've heard stories of a lot of parishes actually going back to using the propers because a
Yeah,
lot of them are just like for him sandwiches. So
right.
yeah, and
And you
the
and you know
propers the propers should have pride of place.
the antiphons, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Indeed. And
yeah,
hymns were never even mentioned in the document. Hymns were never included. It just said that if you look at the actual modern Roman Missal, it just says that you can chant the antiphon. It doesn't say sing this four-part, hymn. Hymns they say are not even mentioned in the actual
mm,
Missal. It says you should. That's why if you watch the the actual uh, Novus Ordo, the Latin Novus Ordo as it appears in the Missal, uh, there is no hymn. There isn't a lot of the times the homily is optional, so you just chant the antiphons that the church
yeah.
actually inscribed in the Missal.
And talking about antiphons, the gradual is also another spot where um the psalms are used um quite quite a lot as well. So yeah, I've actually got St. Peter's gradual. This is the ordinary gradual, but um
Wow.
yeah, so Psalms, like
Hmm.
yep, it's just like the Psalms should have pride of place um
Right.
in liturgical worship,
Indeed. Indeed.
Um
I would I wouldn't be surprised if eventually there will be a Vatican III, and they're going to mention how the Psalms need to have more of a role in
yeah,
the liturgy. Yeah.
and talking about psalm tones, I think the easiest psalm tone um is actually the Ruthenian psalm tone. You would have heard it quite a lot
Oh yeah.
when you're in the US and you go to a Ruthenian
Mm-hmm.
Byzantine Catholic church,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just rector tone of the first half, and then you go down like a step in the second half, and that's it.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, but other than that, in the East, psalm tones uh aren't used often.
No.
because it just wasn't a development in the
right.
so um all the psalms are like recto tono, but yeah.
Yeah. Us Westerners tend to be a bit more florid and I guess creative in that sense.
Yeah. And one masterpiece um based on Psalm 50, Allegri's Miserere, like that is awesome. Like it is glorious when you get to sing it, you know?
Hmm.
It's just it's just like polyphony interspersed with plain chant.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's
Yeah,
glorious when you get to hear it. Like just look it up. So many
right.
so many recordings of it on YouTube, and I've even seen a um a whole male school choir do it.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's it. So yeah, I mean, like actually, where can everyone actually find the Watcher Psalter?
Well, there's a link in the description to my videos on the Watcher Psalter on my
Yeah,
YouTube channel,
yeah,
Watchers for the Son of Man. So I include a link to the Google Doc.
yeah,
I think it's a PDF now, but there is a free link to download or print it out from the descriptions in my videos on the Watcher Psalter.
yeah. So that's very nice. So how did the movement actually start?
I just felt like uh, the laity don't really have a place to go after work or after Mass on Sunday. I see that a lot of people, they just hop in their cars and go off to different kinds of recreation that it's like they don't realize who they have just received in the Eucharist. And
Yeah,
I just felt like that liturgical dimensions is totally missing from uh, our lives. And so I had this vision of the early Christians, how they would spend a lot of time together praying the Psalms. And
yeah,
it would be, it just, if you, you see, you could sense that a lot of Catholics, especially, they feel empty and unfed. And so a lot of that's because they don't have an intense prayer life. They just go to Mass as their obligation.
yep,
But outside of Mass, the it's hard to find time to pray, or they don't know how to pray.
yeah,
So the Psalms, that when you once you start praying them, you immediately understand what prayer is all about. And and if you do it at length with other people, it never fails to build a sense of community, of purpose. You know, once you commit to praising God, you realize that is your purpose in life.
yep.
Everything else is just it's just
Secondary.
extraneous, secondary. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so I've I haven't I didn't live as wild a life as some of the other converts, but or
yeah,
reverts in my case, but I saw enough and did enough in the world to realize that that the secular life, the pagan lifestyle it's extremely depressing and alienating.
yeah,
And when when you pray the Psalms, it costs a mere $3 get a pocket Psalter or even just download a copy online.
yeah.
Um,
For free.
you it doesn't. It's the pearl of great price, because once you know you have that to look forward to, no matter what kind of, if you're unemployed, if you're disabled, if you're, not the most attractive person and you're lonely, uh, but if you open the Psalms and start praying them in the Spirit, you will
Yeah.
find your value, your purpose in life,
Yeah.
and everything else falls into place.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm a
Like.
person I struggle a lot with anxiety and panic attack disorder, but
Mhm.
when I pray the Psalms extensively, I find that my episodes of panic are much fewer and much less severe,
Yeah.
if any. So I think there's just the spiritual warfare element of it, that when you're praising God, the devil can't hurt you because you're doing the opposite of what he does.
True.
You know,
That's
if you
true.
praise, if you in the Psalms, when you pray them, you you're giving yourself to the one true God. You're worshiping God when you pray the Psalms,
Yep.
and that's the whole, and that's the ultimate weapon against Satan,
Yeah.
because his number one goal is to make you not worship God. He wants you to worship him.
That's true. And I believe that everyone living a secular life is doing just that.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. I think it was who was the guy who wrote Introduction to the Devout Life? Was it just De La Salle?
Yeah, the sales, yeah.
De Sale. Okay, so he made a very good point in that book, because he wrote that for lay people. He says that lay people in the world need as much of an intense spiritual life as clergy do, because we're the ones in the trenches.
As it were, yeah.
We're the ones in the world. Yeah,
That's true.
the and so it's no wonder that a lot of baptized Catholics are in mortal sin, because they don't have the 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 prayer life that Christ calls us to. But the early Christians, they were different. They were much more monastic. They would, when they weren't working, they were praying. They were fellowship. They were celebrating the Eucharist. That's all they did.
Yep.
And the Copts, I find that the Oriental Orthodox are pretty good at that. The Copts maintain a very solid relationship outside the liturgy. When I was visiting the Copts in New Orleans, I noticed that when I would visit on weeknights, there would be a handful of congregants just gathered together having coffee. That was where they went after work, because they were spiritually safe there. It was
Yeah.
the
And
strength in numbers.
yeah, talking about the cops, the young pair is definitely you can get through a huge chunk of the Psalms.
Oh, definitely. That
But
in fact, it was the yeah.
not
Go
the
ahead.
full Psalter though.
Right, right. But it was the Agpeya that actually inspired me to create the Watcher's Psalter, because I wanted to create a like an Agpeya for lay people.
Interesting.
Even though the Agpeya is available to lay people, but it's based on what the monks are chanting, what the monks are doing. But
Yep.
because it follows the canonical hours. But the Watcher Psalter, and I repeat, it's not liturgical. I'm not pretending to rewrite anything. It's just the Book of Psalms. It doesn't get more simple than that. But
True.
it follows the five divisions of the Psalter, the theological divisions. Each division, in some way, shape, or form, prophesies Christ
That's
and the
true.
church. And so watch your Psalter following that pattern. If you do it enough times, you begin to recognize, hey, there is a pattern to the Psalms. There is this underlying theme, and it becomes so fulfilling to read it. When you realize just how much God loves you and how active He is in history right now,
Yeah.
it just it makes everything else just meaningless.
Yeah.
And so it's called the Watcher Psalter, because Christ says, "What will he find when he returns to earth?" I, and so if he finds you worshiping him, in the Psalter, through the Psalter. That is the best way to be found, right? To be
Yeah.
found praising Him.
Yeah, that's true. Like,
So yeah, that was the main point of the Watcher Psalter,
yeah,
just by which they can worship God in their free time at any time. And the number of psalms is high enough that they can be fulfilled uh, regardless of how long they have to pray.
yeah. Like, I actually used to follow a prayer rule where it was like one kathisma a day, and that's like 8 psalms a day. So
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that can get a bit tiring because some of the psalms are really long.
hmm
But um but yeah, just like even if you get through 1 to 2 psalms a day, um that's really good.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Especially when you can make it turn it into lectio. Like we talked about the spiritual sense, the literal sense. If you pray
Yeah.
the Psalms in that way, it'll
Yeah.
it'll really revitalize you and motivate you to pray more.
Yeah. As I was uh talking to you yesterday, like yeah, Timothy Flanders, he actually published a book called what is it? I think it's Introduction to the Bible for Traditional Catholics.
Yeah,
Yeah, something like that. And then he actually has a whole like section on the Psalter. So in
yeah.
his,
I really enjoyed what you shared.
yeah, um in his video on the Bible, I believe it was, he also recommended this. So
Yeah,
yeah. They now do a dark blue cover like their prayer book,
yeah,
actually. Like, show you the prayer book here. So the um the current Psalter is now in this shade of blue, like the prayer book here.
wow,
So I got an older edition, so it's the lighter blue, but still complements each other because you can literally stick Psalms anywhere.
right.
Like if you go through the morning prayers in here, you could literally stick the Psalms in at one point, I think. And even small Compline, that's filled with Psalms. So
hmm
so yeah, the Psalter is more movable Psalms, but the fixed Psalms are always like say Psalm 50, that's always fixed to any of the services. So and yeah, so small Compline there was saying here Psalm 50, and then you've got a whole bunch of hymns, um but yeah, a lot of the Orthodox and Byzantine Catholic services, they are like filled with psalms.
Indeed.
Yeah, the Paraphrasis in particular as well to the Theotokos. That's
Mm-hmm.
got Psalm 142 and 50 at the beginning, and then you get straight into the odes. So um yeah, and I was just flipping through, and the material the um in the Holy Transfiguration Monastery Psalter, it's got other than the Psalms, it's actually got the 9 odes that are used liturgically in the back,
Mm-hmm.
and it's got a whole bunch of tables as well. So starting, yeah, it's got the 9 odes, and then when you go to the back, it's got all the tables, um, like psalm numbering, and then you've got all the assigned psalms to the services so that if you don't have a prayer book, then you can literally pray the psalms from here.
Exquisite.
Yep. And you have here are the tables that I'm talking about. So it's literally showing you which cathedral to pray when. But this schedule like this can get pretty hectic because,
Yeah,
as I said, some of the psalms are really long.
right.
So if you can't pray all that, then just get through as many psalms as you can, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really about quality. Now, I always say this when I'm talking about what I do. It's not so much about the quantity, but the quantity is there for those who need it. It's
True.
like if I have 3 hours of free time,
Yeah.
and what's a better way to use that time than to praise God through the Psalms? And I
Yeah.
tend to, when I do it, I'll tend to read each psalm maybe 3 times because I don't I don't want to rush through it. So,
Mm.
uh,
Like
and it would,
read
yeah, go ahead.
through it slowly.
Yeah, read through it slowly, or if there's a verse that stands out to me, I might have a pen and paper nearby, so I'll jot it down for next to reflect upon
Mm.
when I'm not praying. Um, but then, yeah, there's just something extremely, I don't know, cathartic or purifying
Yeah.
about exposing the mind to the Psalter for extensive periods of time.
Yeah.
Because we feel our minds our senses are exposed to so much filth throughout the day that
True.
the more you expose them to holy things like icons and, of course, the Psalms, that becomes your filter for
True.
life. Uh,
Like
that's not anything I created. That's something that I'm sure the early monks and Christians knew that. That's why they prayed the Psalms all the time.
yeah, that's true. Like I would also say that you should other than the psalms, you should definitely um filter out all that filth with any
Yeah,
holy thing that you can. You know.
yeah. Another thing is, I forgot I haven't mentioned it quite frequently enough, is the Marian dimension. Try to include a rosary with the Watchers that um, that Mary is a part of that prayer
Yeah.
because she she epitomizes the prayer of the Psalms.
Yeah.
She epitomizes what one looks like when they embody the Psalter. You know.
True. And one more thing to mention. This it also has prayer for the
What's that?
replaced. So
Oh yeah, yeah, beautiful.
yeah, and
Yeah,
talking about the Marian dimension, the little office of the Blessed Virgin Mary is also another way to pray the Psalms.
yes,
Yeah, like if if anyone is enrolled in the Brown Scapular, then yep, this is a must.
yes.
Like if you can't do this, then the Rosary is a it's a good sub, but
Hmm.
you should strive to pray the little office at least 1 hour. One or 2 hours. It
Yeah.
doesn't take that long. Like
Hmm.
even even Matins, the most complex, it doesn't take that long. It only takes an hour or so
Yeah.
because it's only one nocturne um for every day instead of three.
Hmm.
So, but if you join it with louds, then yeah, it's gonna take near to an hour. That's it.
Right.
So, and then this particular version from Labarou is the amplified version. So you've got propers for um particular places like France and particular feasts as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, this is a good travel size when you want to pray the Psalms and you want the Marian aspect.
Indeed, indeed.
Indeed.
And it dates back to the Middle Ages, right? Isn't that when they first
Yeah.
published it?
Yeah. The medieval books of hours actually had the little office in them, I believe.
Mm.
So, you guys can see the Psalms, they have Latin and then French translation.
Wow.
Yep. Now, if you want to really dive deep into the little office, then Veronica Brandt actually has a full course on it, and I've also done an interview with her on it as
Mm.
well. So I'll link that in the description too.
Good.
So yeah, her booklets actually have the music included, so it's not just text. But if you want a travel size, then yeah, just text. But like, of course, having a pocket Psalter is your ideal if you want to pray the Psalms.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's it. So thank you for watching and listening. To support me further, please like, share, subscribe, comment, and God bless, and see everyone. All right. So, would you like to say any last words?
Oh, just pray the Psalms, know Jesus Christ, and renounce Satan.
All right.